Hello, I'm Marissa, Eat This Not That social media director, and today we are going live with a member of our medical expert board, Laura Burak. Laura is a nationally recognized registered dietitian, media spokesperson, published author, freelance writer, and recipe developer. She's also a mom of 2 kids who love to challenge her encouragement of green foods. She founded her company with a mission to teach you how to ditch cereal dieting and strip down to the simplicity of food and nutrition while also finding joy and pleasure from it. And today she is going to be joining us for a Q&A, answering questions that you, our Facebook followers, submitted about how to make eating healthy at home easier. So let's go ahead and bring her in. Hello, Laura.
Hey, Marissa. How are you?
So nice to see you.
I know it's been a really long time.
Yeah, how have you been?
Pretty good. Just end of year craziness with the kids and, graduations and all kinds of stuff. But it's kind of the perfect time to talk about what we're going to talk about because I think when it's warmer out and the grilling season starts, it's a little bit motivating to want to get in shape and be healthier and eat from home and just kind of eat lighter in general.
Absolutely. And on the same note, a busy time, so it can be more difficult than ever. Okay, perfect. So I work long hours and don't want to cook every day. When I fast, what can I reach for that's still?
So a huge part of what I talk about with clients, first of all, is that when you eat from home, you are going to automatically eat healthier because you know what's in your food. When you go to restaurants and you order out, and now we just have everything at our fingertips where we can order DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever there is, and it can show up at our doorstep. And the truth is, we really have very little idea of what's in our food when we're not making it ourselves. I think that, it's to, have tons of extra oils and salt and sauces that we don't even realize. But that's why that food tastes really good, right? But when we make food from home in a really simple way, then it's, exactly what's in it, and you automatically take in less extras. And by extras, I mean added salt, added sugar, added calories, things we don't really need. And when we make it from home, we can choose our ingredients. We can choose how much salt we're putting in, how much sauce we're using, and just really it helps us focus on using more nutrient-dense foods in a really simple way. So and first of all, we're all busy, right? It doesn't matter what time of year it is. I think everybody can pretty much say that there's no time of year that's calm. So it's really learning how to have a handful of ingredients in the house so that we can make quick, easy, simple, and really delicious foods quickly that make us feel better. Because I'm sure anybody can attest to the fact that when you eat a meal out, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I don't feel good, or I ate too much, or you wake up the next morning, your hands are swollen, or you don't sleep well because of it. So one of the best things to do is to simply prep, quickly prep. You don't need to spend hours prepping your meals. If you see the people online doing that and they have all their like little containers set up all nicely, I am never doing that. When I'm not doing it, you're not doing it. We are really busy people. And I want you to be able to just like look in your fridge, look in the pantry, and be able to say, okay, where's my quality carbohydrate? Where's my protein? How can I fit those together into a meal? And if possible, how do I add some fresh foods into that, like fruits and vegetables? So one of my favorites to have prepared all the time is hard-boiled eggs. I actually have this little hard-boiled egg maker that you can get on Amazon, and there's even a double-decker one. Like the one I have makes 6 eggs. You literally put the eggs in, you pour a little bit of water in the bottom, and you push a button, and in like 8 minutes, they're the perfect hard-boiled eggs. I was boiling my eggs too, by the way. Like I didn't need this hard-boiled egg maker, but it's making my life even easier. And it's one of the most life-changing $20 devices that you can have in your kitchen, in my opinion. So having those hard-boiled eggs in the fridge, having cans of tuna, cans of beans, a bunch of bananas, any fruit, just having a couple pieces of fruit in your fridge, maybe having some fruit in your freezer, bags of fruit that you can make a quick smoothie. And then having like a bread or a cracker or a wrap type vehicle so that you can throw the tuna in, and then you can add a little bit of avocado. And then if you get salad kits or like ready to go washed greens, or anything that you can buy that's like ready to eat is going to make your life easier. You don't have to feel bad about getting vegetables that are ready to eat that you don't have to wash, because that's going to help make it easier to get them into your diet. So like taking a handful of something green, whatever you like, it could be any kind of greens, it could be baby carrots, it could be cucumbers, and just throwing them on your plate with the wrap that you made or the sandwich. Taking a banana and spreading a little bit of peanut butter on it for a quick snack. So it's really just having like that 10 to 15 ingredients in your house all the time so you can throw together quick meals.
Person wrote in, they don't live close to a grocery store, so they shop about twice a month. So they're looking for that don't require fresh produce.
Okay. Well, again, if you grocery shop twice a month, getting those fresh or those frozen fruits and vegetables into your freezer, they're not going to go bad. And most people don't know that the frozen produce can actually be more nutritious than the fresh because they're frozen at peak, so they're retaining more nutrients. And if they're in your freezer, you can buy a whole bunch at once. They tend to be really economical as well, and they're not going to go bad, because I think when we have the fresh stuff in the house, it can sit, even after a few days, it can go bad. And then we're like, oh my God, my like $8 strawberries went bad. But if we have some of that stuff in the freezer, you can use it for making smoothies. You can take out the frozen vegetables and put them on a sheet pan, frozen. And this is a good little tip. Just with nothing on them, put them right into the oven to kind of like suck up all the moisture for a few minutes. Take them out, put a little seasoning on, maybe a little olive oil, and put them back into the oven to roast. So frozen produce is one of my favorite things to make sure I have in the freezer. The other thing is, what can you have in your pantry that's in a can, for example, or in a box that can last a few months? So like I was saying before, having a quality cracker, for example, like maybe a seed-based cracker that you can have to add to your meals, to add to your snacks, and then your canned beans and lentils and tomato sauces and things that you can make quick meals with. Like once a week I'm making like a bolognese or a meatball type of thing and using a jar of a marinara sauce. All you have to do is put the meat and the marinara sauce together in a pan and heat it up, and it's a 2-ingredient sauce. Other things can be just oats in the pantry. If you have a canister of oats, they're again one of the most economical quality foods you can buy. I know oats get a lot of, I don't know why, a bad reputation, but they're a whole grain. They are affordable. You buy a canister, it lasts a pretty long time. You can make oatmeal with it. You can make cookies, breads, all kinds of things. You just want to make sure you're adding some protein to your oats in some way so that it keeps your blood sugar stable and makes more of a complete balanced meal. So a good example of that is cooking your oats for oatmeal and adding some peanut butter, some seeds, some fresher frozen fruit in there just to make it more of a complete meal. You can add some yogurt, you can add some cottage cheese for protein, or you could have eggs on the side as your protein. So, having that staple in the pantry, you can make so many different things with it. Eggs are another thing that actually lasts a pretty long time in the fridge. So their shelf life is longer than other proteins. So we were talking about eggs before. I'm mentioning them again because they're one of my favorite high quality proteins. They kind of are one of the most perfect foods. Funny how some of the most perfect foods have gotten a bad reputation over the decades, but you want to always think back to basics. Like, what are the most basic foods and how can I make quick meals with them? Again, the eggs, because they can last a few months in the fridge. Making the hard-boiled eggs and just having them in there. The frozen produce, the canned beans and sauces. Um, Having some avocados. I like to have avocados and guacamole packs. The guacamole packs can actually last a fairly long time in the fridge. So if my avocado isn't ripe yet or it's too ripe, then I've got my guacamole that I can use as part of a snack or put on a sandwich for like a spread. Avocados are a great source of heart-healthy fat. They're delicious. They help keep your blood sugar stable. Great source of fiber. Again, back to basics, like what grows on trees and bushes and from the outside that doesn't have a label, that doesn't have ingredients in it. Fruits, vegetables, are the thing that comes to mind the most. Again, your eggs, there's really not, there's no ingredients in them. They're just produced from a chicken. So looking and being able to open your fridge and saying like, okay, got some eggs here. I've got a bag of ready washed spinach. I've got my little cooking spray. Maybe I have a little bag of cheese that, again, the shredded cheese can last a while. And making an omelet. Making a sandwich. What am I going to put in my sandwich? Okay, I've got some canned tuna in the pantry. I can mix it with one of my little guacamole packs. Put it on bread that, again, having a good quality loaf of bread, you're usually going to have to put that in the freezer anyway and take a slice out at a time, because if it's more of an unprocessed bread, one that's, maybe your local farmer's market or bakery made, that's made with more whole grains and seeds and things like that, that's going to just have more nutrition in it. It's not going to have preservatives, so a good idea is to take that loaf of bread sliced and put it right into the freezer so it won't go bad. And all you have to do is take a slice out at a time, put it right into the toaster. So that's another really good tip, is to have not only your box of crackers in the house, but have your loaf of bread. Again, you can do this with wraps too. Keep them in the freezer and take them out one at a time and just kind of heat it up in some way really quickly to make a lot of different, it's kind of like your vehicle. So it's like, what are you going to stuff inside of it is what to think about. So if you see, I'm like using all the same ingredients to come up with these just really nutritious, random things that become kind of like just the way you eat. It's like we become creatures of habit with our meals, especially breakfast and lunch. They tend to be really similar. So if you're like, okay, what protein do I have in the house? What carb do I have in the house? Okay, I always have a loaf of bread in the freezer. I can toast some, put some peanut butter on it, add a banana, and then you have really quick, simple meals.
I love about the pre-baking the frozen vegetables a little first to defrost them before seasoning them. I have never done that. I'll have to try.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question got often because I hate washing dishes. What healthy meals can I make that don't require multiple pots, pans, dishes, etc.?
No one likes to wash dishes, so but we also don't want to use like lots of paper plates either. That makes me feel terrible about wasting and like causing more trash. But I like to use one pot, one pan type of meals. So you could literally Google sheet pan meals and you'll come up with like hundreds of different things. You literally can like, this is where the frozen stuff comes in, like having a bag of frozen shrimp in the freezer. You take them out, you put them in a colander and you just put some cold water over them and they defrost really quickly. You throw them on a sheet pan with like any veggies you have. Again, it can be like a bag of the frozen peppers and onions that like you could get at Trader Joe's or in any store now. Throw them all in a sheet pan, a little bit of like an olive oil spray, some spices, and put it into the oven. And it's only one sheet that you have to wash. You can even put a piece of parchment paper under it. So you just throw the parchment paper out and you don't even have to wash the pan sometimes. And then the other things are, using a plate for a sandwich. Like, no big deal there. I also like to make quick jars that I can put in the fridge. So an example of that would be like an overnight oats. Taking those oats you have and mixing it with some kind of milk and maybe some like nuts or seeds that you have in the pantry, maybe some cinnamon, putting it in jars that you can reuse. So I always hold on to my jelly jars, my whatever jam I have, and I have a whole drawer of jars so that I can make overnight oats and put them in the fridge and then just wash them or put them in the dishwasher. Or chia pudding's another really easy thing that you can make and keep in the fridge. I'm telling you, it takes 3 minutes to make chia pudding. You put chia seeds in, some kind of milk, and you shake it in the jar and put it in the fridge. Obviously, you can add other things to it, but I don't even do that sometimes. Cinnamon is another ingredient I've mentioned that gives you a sweet taste, but has no sugar in it. It's a great spice and it's full of antioxidants. So adding a little cinnamon to either of those jar recipes or non-recipes. A lot of what I do is like, these aren't really recipes, but I can tell you what's in it. Like I made these pancakes the other day in a blender. So this is another thing you can do too, is like put a bunch of stuff in a blender and either drink it. Obviously you're not drinking a pancake mix, but blenders are kind of one appliance recipes. You can even drink it, the little NutriBullet things. You can like drink it. You can put a top on and drink it out of there, so you don't even have to waste a cup. But I made green blender pancakes. I blended up some of that ready to wash spinach in the fridge, some eggs, some oats were in there. I have some chia seeds and hemp seeds and almond milk, and just blend it up and pour it into a pan and make pancakes. And they made about 12 pancakes. That was the last real video that I put up yesterday, if anyone wants to check it out of how I made them. And then I put the rest in the fridge and I ate them the next day. So that's a really good idea, is to make more than you might need and then use it for another meal later in the week.
Perfect. I love that. Next, someone said, I have a relentless sweet tooth. What should and shouldn't I keep in the house to avoid binging on sweet treats?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is really common. Well, the first thing I would ask is, are you eating enough during the day? Are you making sure to keep your blood sugar stable? Because it's all too common that, whether it's intentional or not, people are just not eating enough during the day. They're not eating enough protein. They're not eating enough food in general. So what's going to happen later is your body's just doing its job by saying, Marissa, you need to eat all the sweet stuff as quickly as possible. And it usually happens at 3, 4 o'clock or after. And we end up eating, we think we have like a problem with cravings and binging and stuff like that. But the first thing to kind of balance out is your physiological state, which means like making sure you're eating balanced meals throughout the day. We're talking about all of those, how to do that easily, making sure you're eating enough so that when it, these cravings really start to go away, because your blood sugar is stable, because your body knows it's had enough food. And the reason it's sweets a lot of the time that you're craving is because that's how you bring your blood sugar up really quickly. Sure. Your body's not like, hey, give me lots of broccoli right now. It's like candy, cookies, all chocolate, your coworkers' dish of chocolate every day, you go over and eat some of. So the first thing is to make sure you're eating enough during the day. You're getting enough protein in your meals. You're getting enough fiber from those quality carbohydrates we talked about. And if you're still having a lot of cravings, figuring out what else it could be. Are you not sleeping enough? Because when you don't have a good night's sleep, one thing that happens is your hunger hormones can be off balance, and you could be hungrier in general that day, or you can crave sweets. That's really common. Making sure you're hydrated, because when you're not drinking enough water, you're going to be hungrier and probably crave sweets more. But this is just, a huge topic, and not having the foods that you're like triggered with at home. Dietitians will tell you different things with this, by the way. They'll say, no, you should be able to have any food at home and then eventually not, be triggered by it. But I think we all have those foods that we're like, you know what, if it's not at my house, it's much easier. Like, remove that hurdle from your life.
Totally.
Because if it's like, it's your favorite thing that you can't stop eating, like for me, it's granola. It's a certain brand of granola. And if it's there, it's like so hard to stop eating it. So not, out of sight, out of mind a lot of times. And so the first things are just making sure that your body's more balanced out and you're having enough food in general so your blood sugar's stable. And then not having the foods that like you really struggle with, or learning eventually, these are the couple treats that I do well with, and everybody's different with that. And these are things, you can think about yourself or talk to your, healthcare professional about. Like with my clients, I discuss with them, okay, what are a couple treats to have in your house that you're totally cool with, like having a little bit of or one of? Sometimes the little individual, chocolates or the little mini ice cream cones are really helpful to just have one of, because there's some things we just don't care about eating more of. But I find like, bags of gummy bears and other candies, it's like so hard to stop eating it. Of course it is. It's not filling you up. It's raising your blood sugar, which then makes you crave more sugar. So it's kind of like a whole cycle, and there's always a why behind it. Like, why is this happening? Okay, let me think of why. What's leading up to this same scenario every day, and how can I prevent it from happening?
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. Next, this person struggles to get their kids to eat more fruits and vegetables and is looking for some tips.
My biggest tip with kids, because I have picky eaters too, is let's say they're coming home from school, which is when they tend to be the most hungry, because kids are just not eating enough in school in general. So cut some fruits and vegetables, have them just sitting out when they come home on a plate, and don't talk about it. Don't be like, hey, Lola, I just cut some fruit, have some fruit. Don't even talk about it. Leave it out on like where they eat their snack. It could be a bowl of baby carrots that, you didn't have to cut and wash. It could be if they're little kids and they like things that look cute, you could put like some berries and already cut up pineapple on a little skewer, like make little fruit kebabs and put those on a plate. But just don't talk about it. Put it there, and most likely they'll start to pick at it. They'll start to eat it, especially if they come home hungry. And then, of course, adding a little bit of protein to that. Maybe it's like some slices of cheese or some slices of turkey or whatever they'll eat. But just putting it out is great. The other thing is, I think parents worry too much about like, my kids won't eat any vegetables. If that's what they're struggling with right now, put anything fresh on their plate. Fruit is a great sub in there. Fruit and vegetables are both great. Any fruits, any vegetables. So, one of my kids will barely eat any vegetables still. So with her dinner, with her chicken or whatever, I'll cut up strawberries, or now peaches and plums are in season that they love. Grapes are a nice sweet fruit that kids tend to like. So anything fresh on their plate means you tried and that you're doing a good job.
I love that. That's such a good tip I've never heard.
Yeah, so don't stress out about like, oh my God, they won't eat vegetables.
Yeah,
Also, kids love smoothies too. So things they wouldn't necessarily eat whole, you can throw into a smoothie. They won't even know it's in there.
perfect. Next, I struggle with portion control when I cook a whole meal for myself. How can I fix that?
That's a really good question. And I think that, when you live solo or you're not cooking for somebody else, that's a big struggle with trying to eat from home because it's much easier just to order something, right? But just think of like, if I make this meal, I'm going to split it up into 3 portions. It's going to depend how much you make, obviously. And then I'm going to have that for for tomorrow's lunch or dinner. If you go to work and you've been ordering takeout too much, take your leftovers with you and eat it at work or eat it for the next night for dinner, so you don't have to cook more than twice a week or something. Just making more and kind of divvying it up into those containers if you want. You could look and kind of say, okay, this looks like 3 meals or 4 meals or just 2 meals, and split it up and put the other containers away so that you don't just eat everything that you made. Because from childhood, I think, back to like the Clean Your Plate Club, which we don't recommend anymore. We want kids to eat until they feel naturally full and then stop eating. We used to do that a really long time ago, but we lost, those sensors that we have, and learning how to get back to that is really important, back to those signals. But we need to start doing the same thing. Like, just because it's on our plate doesn't mean we need to finish it all. And getting into the practice of just not leaving a few bites over on our plate at a restaurant, for example, or you're saying, I'm just going to eat half of this and take the rest home. So it's kind of the same concept of that if you're going to be making your own meals at home. But I really encourage you to still make your own meals at home, even if there's one of you, and compromise with yourself. Everything's a compromise. Like, I'm going to eat home half the week and the rest I can order out. So it's like, how can I do better?
Yeah, very fair. The next question you've definitely already touched upon a bit when it comes to cost, but this person says, I want to buy healthy groceries for my family, but they're expensive. How down without resorting to processed food?
Yes, great question. So I did a post once on Starbucks that, so if you buy a banana at Starbucks, it could be like $2. You can buy a dozen bananas for $2 or $3. So it's more like having the knowledge of the fact that like you could buy really quality foods, and some of the most quality foods are the most economical. And also looking at like, what am I spending money on during the week that I don't need to spend money on, like your daily coffee habit. A cup of coffee these days is at a coffee place. I mean, I've seen it ranging from $4 to $8. So let's say you go every morning, you buy a coffee and like a muffin for $8. You could buy a lot of healthy food for that. Some of my favorites, again, are bananas. You could get a dozen bananas really for just a few dollars, and they're a really nutritious food. You can get a dozen eggs. I think eggs are a little better. They were like really high for a while. I've seen eggs as cheap as like $3.99 for a dozen. They don't have to be like, I just saw blue eggs at a supermarket at Whole Foods. They were actually blue. They were like $10. A lot of it's marketing too. Buy some basic eggs. Again, one of the most nutritious foods, one of the most economical and versatile. So a dozen eggs, $4. Dozen bananas, $3 or maybe less when you go to the wholesale stores like BJ's and Costco. You can get, produce, whether fresh or frozen. Yeah, lots of it. Keep it in the freezer for a lot less than buying these kind of bougie wellness foods that we see online that are completely unnecessary. It's all about getting back to basics and thinking like, what are just some nutritious foods to keep in the house. Again, the oats that you could buy a canister. I've seen them at Trader Joe's, organic oats, $2.99. You could make countless meals out of oats. Cans of beans, 99 cents or less. You could use those as part of your meals. Same with like rice and quinoa. Buying them in bulk is going to make it cheaper. But even if you don't, you can find these things for a really low price and then think about like, my gosh, I'm, spending $20 a day on my snack habit by walking outside and getting my coffee and my muffin and my whatever. So I truly believe that if we pay attention, we can do a grocery shop for a lot less than we're doing it now. And some of the most nutritious foods are the most economical. And you can see like a bag of Doritos now is like, $6-7, right? So it's almost like, what are you swapping out? Water is free. So, like instead of buying soda and iced teas and energy drinks and all of these crazy things we have now, the flavored probiotic sodas, you can drink water for free.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of thinking in this way that's really helpful, and being really honest with yourself. Like, I'm very honest with people. I'm like, okay, this is not a mystery. Here's how we can adjust things for the better.
Absolutely. Okay, we are on our last question. I get bored by the lack of variety when I eat at home day after day. How can I mix things up while staying healthy, keeping grocery costs low, and sticking to quick and easy meals?
So the best way to get variety into your diet by keeping other things pretty stable so you don't have to think too much is by rotating in and out different fruits and vegetables. Especially going with the seasons. Like I was talking about, now we've got kind of the, what are they called? The plums and the peaches and nectarines, or like the stone fruits.
Okay.
Stone fruits. There's like a stone in the middle of the pit. They're in season now. You couldn't even find them in the store a month or two ago. They're going to be more nutritious because they're in season, and fruits and vegetables have different nutrient profiles. They're going to have different vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. So swapping in, a pear instead of an apple one day, you're going to get different nutrients. So you can kind of keep things fairly the same. Breakfast and lunch, like I said, can be very similar. Most people are not having more than 2 different breakfasts a day. And then lunches are fairly similar. Dinners tend to change more often, but really just thinking of like getting, and again, they can be the frozen fruits and vegetables if fresh are not possible for you for lots of different reasons, and just swapping them in and out.
I love that. And there's certainly such a variety if you're going frozen when it comes to choices.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was such a wonderful Q&A. So many great tips for everyone watching. Certainly found helpful. Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
But it had been a wonderful.
Anytime.
Awesome. Well, before we sign off, please, you mentioned the reels that you've recently posted. Let everyone know where they can find you online and follow you for more.
Sure. So my Instagram is Get Naked Nutrition, and my Facebook page that I'm coming on here from is Laura Burak Nutrition. But I'm mostly on Instagram, Get Naked Nutrition, and my website is lauraburaknutrition.com. That's where you can find me.
Thank you so much again. For those watching, if you tuned in late, this live in its entirety will be posted right after we sign off to Eat This Not That's page, and it will live there forever. So give it a watch. It really was a wonderful Q&A. Thank you so much again.
You're so welcome. Have a great summer.
You too.
Okay. Bye.